Hello, I'm going to show you how to sew a mask. This is a pattern that was on the BBC website and it's simple. It's made from any woven cotton fabric. This is an old pair of pyjamas and then it's got two layers of fabric and with a pocket in between, and you can put kitchen roll into it. You could put several pieces in if you like to make a thicker mask, and then there's elastic at the ends and then you just put it on like that. It's quite comfortable and it's a simple one. You can make it on the machine, sewing machine, which is obviously much quicker, or you can sew by hand if you don't have a machine. It's not complicated. So I'll show you first of all what you need. Some woven fabric, as I said, these pyjamas are what I'm using, the remains of them anyway. You'll need some scissors, some pins, some kitchen roll, a ruler and pencil to mark out the shape, some thin elastic. It's more comfortable around your ears if it's thinner and very stretchy. You could use a hairband snipped so you've got a length of elastic if you don't have any elastic. And also you need a needle and thread for the end, whether or not you're sewing by hand or on the machine. So first of all, I'll cut out two rectangular shapes. Done one, there we are. This rectangular shape of fabric, and the size of that is 10 inches on the long side and 6 inches on the short side. That's 25 centimetres if you think it metric by 15. And then the elastic, you need to cut two pieces. I've made them a little bit longer than it said on the website. I thought it's more comfortable. 17 centimetres, which is 6.5 inches, two little pieces of elastic. So that's two bits, two rectangles and two pieces of elastic. So I'm going to measure out, I've done one rectangle, I'm going to measure the other one out. That is 25 centimetres. I tend to think metrically myself, by 15, which is there, and then 25 that side, and 15 there. Mark it, draw it line with a pencil. And then you can easily cut it out. Woven fabric has a neater and closer weave than t-shirt fabric, which is knitted. If you look closely at t-shirt stretchy fabric, you'll see that it is a very tight form of knitting, which can unravel, but it also is actually rather too warm to have around your face, I think, although people do recommend sometimes masks are made of t-shirt material. So now we have two rectangles, except I think I've thrown mine over here. There we are. Two rectangles of cotton, and I'm going to do something extra that also is not added onto the web, not recorded on the website. I think it'll fray when you wash it. And you need to wash it in a hot wash about 60 degrees to get rid of those nasty bugs, and that's a hot wash. I've decided to zigzag all the way around the edge. I've done this one in advance, just to stop it fraying quite so much. And if you're doing it by hand, you could do either just over sew the edge or even blanket stitches if you can remember how to do that. And you're going to do that round both of them. I've done one, so I'll get the machine and we'll do the other one. I'm going to switch to zigzag stitch, and I'm going to go all the way around here, all four sides. go backwards and forwards to fix it at the end, because if you try and do that on a single thickness of fabric, you'll find it'll probably get all rather tangled up, so it's not worth trying it. So now we've got, I did one a little bit earlier, we've now got 2 rectangles that have been hemmed around the edge. The next thing that we need to do is to fix the 2 layers together. So I'm just going to pin them together so they don't slip, just pin them roughly with my tortoise pin cushion, which some of us made probably a few years ago now on one of the Thursday sewing groups. And we're going to sew right along one of the long sides. And what we need to do is to turn it over just about what they say, 1/2 centimetre, which is really quite little, say 1/4 of an inch. I'm just going to pin that down, and then I'm going to machine with a straight stitch all the way along that side. That's so that the paper towel can't fall out that side. To go back to a straight stitch and sew all the way down one long side that I've turned over. So we've got 4 thicknesses of fabric to sew through now. I'm going to start a little bit away from the edge and then go back a little bit and then back forwards again. Backwards and forwards at the end just a little bit, cutting that off, making sure I leave a long enough thread here so it doesn't unthread itself. So they're now fixed together on one side. Now the opposite long side, we're going to do the same thing, but not going to sew all the way along. We're going to sew about that sort of distance, about a couple of inches along, and leave a gap so we've got space to get the paper in. Maybe not as much as 2 inches, 1.5 inches perhaps. We're going to pin that the same along a little bit the other side. So you're sewing in from each end just a little way and leaving the rest open. Now I found that it's slightly easier to start sewing, as it were, where you're going to stop about 1.5 inches from the end, and I'm going to go backwards and forwards a little bit so it doesn't come undone, because every time we put the paper in and out it might begin to rip that seam. So backwards and forwards a couple of times, then right to the end. And you don't really need to go backwards and forwards at the end, because that's going to come underneath another seam. Cutting off these threads close to the fabric because they're secured by going backwards and forwards. So you've got one, that side's all sewn along. This side has got a little bit done, and then I'm going to do it the other side here. Start about, do it that way around, I think. About 1.5 inches in, I'm going to go backwards and forwards a bit. And then right to the end. Cut it off, cut the ends off as well. Take the other pins out so it's all fixed together. So we have here a rectangle that's double thickness, that's got a seam that goes all the way along the top, but we've got the bottom a little bit open, so it forms a little sort of pocket. So that's the main part of the mask. Now we've got to do the ends, so for the elastic. So we need to turn the ends over, I should think, a good centimetre, nearly half an inch perhaps in, so that you can get the elastic threaded through easily. I think you need to take a bigger seam really than they suggest perhaps on the website, because I had trouble getting the elastic through otherwise. And you're going to sew with a straight stitch away from the folded edge, so it's quite close to the zigzagged edge. So you're making a casing, as it's called, for the elastic, a channel for the elastic to go all the way through. Now I'm going to make sure I go backwards and forwards here, so we don't want it coming apart. That's one side done. I'll show you that. So you've got, that's the top, that's the bottom with the opening for the paper. That's one side for the elastic. Same again, the other side. Fold it over a bit more than 1 centimetre. Pin it down and sew it top to bottom, making the casing for the elastic the other side. Start in a little bit so it doesn't come undone. Over sewing at the ends there. Just make it secure. Cutting off the threads. The next thing to do is to thread the elastic through. I've got a little elastic threader, little bendy metal threader that's actually rather old, but you could use a small safety pin as long as it's small enough to go through the gap. Thread it through right from one end to the other. It gets a little bit fiddly at the end, getting past the seams that are there, but with a bit of fiddling about you'll get them through, I hope. Sometimes you need to put something through there to try and help. There we are. So making sure you don't lose that end as it comes through. Hold tight. And there. Now you need to stitch the end really, but you might prefer to make it. You might want to start making a knot to make sure that it's the right length for you, and just try it out. But that's what the needle and thread was for, to sew the elastic together. And if you having a knot might be a bit irritable on your ears, so sewing together is probably a bit better. And I'll leave that. That's so I've done that one side. You're overlapping the elastic, just sewing one side against the other, so that you've got a complete loop like that. I'm just doing it really securely. Back down the other side of the elastic. And then do the other side of the mask. With the other small piece of elastic, if I can find it, there it is. So you'll do the same, threading it down the other side. Now I can go to the one I've already made and done both sides. I think they suggest, from what I can make out on the website, you can slide the elastic round so the knot, the sewn bit is not visible. they said get it right for your size, and then you can stitch the elastic to the end of the mask here, so keep it continually gathered up. I don't think that's really necessary. You may find you want to at a later date, because if that's like that, it's more difficult to get the paper in and out. So there, we've got one lot of kitchen towel in. Let's take that one out. I was going to put a double thickness in. You may need to make your kitchen towel a little bit shorter so that it fits in, because I found when it came off the roll it was a little bit long. But I've made a pad of kitchen roll, and I'm going to put it into the mask like that. Flatten it so it's comfortable and doesn't feel too bunched up against your face. And there we are. With this mask, I hadn't done the zigzags on the edge, and I think when I wash it, it's going to fray. So I'll be interested to see what the difference is between the two. There we are. That's quite a thick wadge. Yes, that feels very secure, and I don't think you need to really stitch the elastic at the ends. I hope you enjoy making them. Just to remind you of the measurements again, in case you have forgotten. The two rectangles of fabric are 10 inches by 6 inches, which is 25 centimetres by 15 centimetres. And the two pieces of elastic are 17 centimetres, which is 6.5 inches. Hope you enjoy doing it. Bye.